Hello, and welcome back to Analyzing Literature. I'm your humble servant, Mr. Mindeman, and today we're going to talk about foreshadowing. As I'm sure you're already aware, foreshadowing is when an author hints to later events in the story. In other words, you're seeing the shadow of those events before they actually happen. But the tricky thing about foreshadowing is that you can't really be sure something's foreshadowing until that event actually does happen later, because sometimes the author might be trying to trick you into thinking something is going to happen, and then they send you in a different direction later on in the book. So you could reasonably ask yourself, how am I supposed to analyze an example of foreshadowing when I'm in the middle of the book and I'm not sure that it's going to actually happen? And my answer to that is analyze it anyway, because it might be foreshadowing. A good reader sees things that might be foreshadowing and makes predictions based on them. If it turns out to not have been actual foreshadowing and they were just sending you in the wrong direction, then that's okay. It doesn't matter. It's not going to affect your grade if you saw something that might be foreshadowing and it turned out to not actually happen later. That's fine. We're just practicing picking up on potential foreshadowing. So here's an example of foreshadowing from To Kill a Mockingbird. This is the first time that Tom Robinson's case comes up specifically in the book. And Scout is asking Atticus about it because she's heard about it at school. And she asks him down here, Atticus, are we going to win it? And he says, no, honey. And so as the reader, you can either assume that that is just setting our expectations low so that when Atticus eventually does win the trial, we're amazed, or you can assume that Harper Lee is being honest and is actually telling you the outcome of the trial before we actually get there. If you're reading the book for the first time, you don't know which of those two things it is, but you're probably, if you're like me anyway, you're probably assuming that Atticus is going to win the trial, because that's what happens in books. The good guys win and the bad guys lose. Still to this day, if I reread To Kill a Mockingbird, there is a part of me that still thinks Atticus is going to win it this time. It just never happens. So I wrote my response as if I'd never read the book before, and I made sure to do all the things I was supposed to do, labeled and dated. I didn't summarize. I quoted with a citation, and I had 5 sentences on the dot. So I said, Harper Lee introduces the trial of Tom Robinson in a way that implies it will be an important part of the book. She may also foreshadow the verdict of the trial. Scout asks Atticus, are we going to win it? And Atticus responds, no, honey. Harper Lee could be setting our expectations low so that when Atticus does pull off the impossible, it seems like an even greater achievement, or Lee could be hinting to the actual outcome, which would be devastating. If that's the case, we can't say she didn't warn us. So I took my example of foreshadowing, explained what it could foreshadow, and I'm making predictions. And that's something a good reader must do. While you're reading, you should be anticipating where this might go. And as you get better and better at reading, what you'll even do is step outside the story even more and look at how the author is creating all the effects they are creating. Don't just follow the story at its most basic level. Look at how the author is creating the story, how she's affecting you as the reader, the techniques they're using. And foreshadowing is certainly one of the most effective techniques that an author has. All right, that's it for me. Mindeman out.